Hello, this is Dr. J, back with some more Let's Play Starcraft. Last time we finished Enslavers Mission 2. We're going to load our save that we had there, and we are going to finish off the mission. I have decided that I'm going to do the non-canon route first, which means we're going to go kill the Cerebrit.
Hailing frequencies open. Set a course. Make it happen.
And maybe if I actually have, you know, dark ground in the lower left corner of the screen where the text appears, I'll be able to read it because it won't blend in with the color of the battle or the battlecruiser hulls. They're a little slow, they're getting there. Commander, the Cerebrit's been killed, but there's no sign of Shazar anywhere. We'll continue to... Fools! Your fellow Shazar and his troops are even now on their way to Ire. Once they arrive there, they will attempt to find our sacred Kadarin something that will allow them to dominate more Cerebrits. You have doomed us all! Okay. So, Shazar and company are going to Ire to get a Protoss thingamabobber, MacGuffin, that will allow them to control more Cerebrits. If the Protoss had such a thing, why couldn't they control Cerebrits when the Zerg were invading Ire? That feels like a bit of a plot hole to me. Onward to the non-canon version of the final mission. Excellent work in destroying the Cerebrit, Commander. Now Shazar and his henchmen should be easy to take out. Ooh, Teldaris. So, Terran Commander, you have decided to abandon my brethren to a criminal of your society. The Conclave has heard of your actions and has ruled that your lives are forfeit. Surrender now or die a painful death. Surrender? I think not. It is because of the Protoss that Shazar was able to control a Cerebrit. He is journeying here to Ire to plunder one of your temples to gain control of the technology that enables him to control the Cerebrits. We will do whatever it takes to destroy him and the temple. Very well, Commander. The Conclave will not rest until all Terrans have been expunged from Ire soil. We will not... View screen off. Don't these guys ever shut up? Okay. Commander, it looks like the Protoss are going to get in our way. Here are your orders. Destroy the Protoss temple. Once the temple is razed, the Protoss will be unable to bring in reinforcements. Okay, sure. You will then engage Shazar and his lackeys. Remember, Commander, we are counting on you. This doesn't make sense in a lot of ways, but that's okay. Objectives. Destroy the temple, eliminate Shazar's scavengers and all his minions. All heroes are expendable. Good to know. So although Manx had a rather amusing line there about the Protoss, it seemed a little out of character. He doesn't really talk that way, does he? It was a little casual for him. Hey everybody, Dr. J here with some post-commentary. As you can see, the game is on super fast forward, and I found some nice remixes of the Terran theme to play in the background. So, as it turned out, this mission was an incredibly long slog that became very tedious by the end. It took me almost 2 hours to play through this thing, and by the end, I wasn't really having fun or enjoying myself anymore, which means I wasn't really giving particularly good commentary. I've mentioned this in LPs previously, but personally I don't think it's much fun watching LPers who aren't having a good time. So, since I was getting pretty frustrated, I decided to just ditch my original commentary, fast forward through this mission, provide some post-commentary, and hopefully some cool tunes in the background to go with it. So the mission actually starts off deceptively seeming very easy, because you start off with a fully functional base with a bunch of required structures already set up, and good defenses already in place at the various entrances into your base, as well as access to 2 Vespene geysers, and probably close to double the normal amount of minerals that you would expect to have at a resource node. And the early part of the mission was actually really easy, and I had no trouble at all getting my base up and running, getting my defenses in place, fighting off the early enemy attacks. Things were going really smoothly, and I was pretty surprised by that, considering that the previous 2 missions had been pretty challenging. But I also, of course, had kind of a feeling of dread, knowing the reputation this campaign has for being extremely difficult, the fact that it just advertises itself as a veteran-level campaign. I was like, there's no way the final mission is this easy, right? But nonetheless, I located the Protoss temple that we have to destroy, and I decided to build a nuclear silo and a ghost and use a nuke to take it out because it didn't appear that there were any detectors around it. But there were a few Protoss forces in the way, although seemingly not that many, as my ComSat station revealed. So I decided, once I had a couple control groups worth of infantry and some Goliaths and then half a dozen siege tanks, that I would launch an attack to clear out the Protoss in the way, and then send in my ghost to nuke the temple. As you can see, the enemy attacks were starting to ramp up a bit by this point. They sent in a Reaver with a bunch of other guys, managed to take out one of my bunkers. But even so, it was still going pretty smoothly, pretty easy so far. Judging from the fact that I saw myself make a scum save, yeah, this is where I'm launching my first attack. First, I got hit by an Arbiter that put a bunch of my guys into stasis, and then they just responded with tons of guys. And then Reavers showed up, which obliterated all my infantry, and I'm pretty sure carriers are about to show up here, like a whole flotilla of carriers to wipe out what's left of my attack, and then launch... Yeah, there, I saw them. And then launch a counterattack, and I was like, okay, that was a disaster. Let's reload and try that again. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be reloading. Yep, right there. I just reloaded. To go ahead and... I think rather than doing the attack at all, what I decided to do was just build a drop ship, drop off my ghost behind enemy lines after putting a defensive matrix on the drop ship to make sure it would make it. Yep, here we go with exactly that plan. And then cloak the ghost, send him in, nuke the temple. That plan worked a lot better. Of course, I had to rebuild the nuke because it took 2 nukes to take out the temple. They counterattacked with their carriers, but since I hadn't sent out my attack force and gotten it wiped out, I was able to just keep my defenders back and wipe out the carriers that way, and here I'm launching a counterattack. And it still takes heavy casualties, but it definitely goes better. And the Protoss no longer get any reinforcements once you wipe out the temple. So all damage you inflict on them is permanent. They mostly just go inert. I mistakenly thought they had gone completely inert, although, as I would learn later, they don't. They launch just one really cheeky attack later on with some scouts to wipe out a bunch of my SCVs, and then I have to rebuild them, and it actually takes a while to deploy forces to take out the scouts because I didn't think I would get hit from there because I thought the Protoss had gone inert, so that was sort of annoying. But still, at this point, I'm still having a lot of fun with the mission. It hasn't even been that difficult yet, really, up to this point so far. So this isn't where it has become super annoying, yet. Now, taking out the Protoss is only step 1. You also have to take out Shazar's Terran forces. And he's got, I think, 2 factions, a dinky little brown faction, and then a huge sprawling red base that takes up the entire eastern half of the map. And I decided, alright, I'll just build a battlecruiser fleet with a little Wraith backup, send that in, and that's done really well every time I've done it in the past, so the battlecruisers are probably going to steamroll over him, right? Well, that was what I figured. Now, although I started off with a really generous amount of resources, I did, of course, get through them. Building battlecruiser fleets is very, very expensive. So I did have to expand, I've already done it by this point, into the first site that I liberated from the Protoss. That's not going to be enough. I'm going to have to expand 2 or 3 more times. 3 more times, I think, before all is said and done. Because, as we're going to see, attacking Red's base is just an absolute meat grinder, and I go through multiple waves of massive attacks trying to take out his base. Now here I am attacking Brown. I'm actually doing this earlier than I intended because because the Terrans have been launching attacks on my position that have been getting kind of irritating. So although I had intended to spend more time wiping out the Protoss and then securing more expansions, I decided to preemptively launch an assault here just because the Terran attacks on my position were getting pretty annoying and destroying my defenses repeatedly, and I was having to rebuild them. So I was like, alright, I'm going to take the fight to you then. And I just wiped out Brown. Brown is now dead. Brown was not difficult to kill. Here, right there, was where the frustration begins. Because you saw that half my cruisers there were locked down. So probably the most annoying thing in this mission, what by far I hated the most, is Red loves using ghosts. Tons and tons and tons of ghosts. And they go frickin' bananas with the lockdown power. So you're just going to see them locking down my battle cruisers over and over and over again. And it gets real frustrating. And you might be thinking, well, just be on the ball with detectors or comsat and just kill the ghosts before they can get off the lockdown. Good theory, and that's what I tried to do as well. But this is the computer we're dealing with. It literally has frame-by-frame level reflexes because it's processing the game at that speed. So the very frame that it's locked down is in range, it fires it off, and there's not a damned thing you can do about it. So you really can't prevent it from locking down your forces over and over again. I've learned to really hate lockdown, just like I hated the Arbiter Stasis ability. I understand, it's balanced, blah blah blah. Starcraft is one of the best balanced games ever. I mean, that's just statistically undeniable, given that they managed to maintain almost perfect 50-50 win ratios for all the different factions, despite them being so different. So fine. And sure, using lockdown is fun. It's good fun locking down a powerful enemy unit and rendering it helpless and taking it out. But those aren't the only considerations when designing abilities. You also have to take into account, what's it like having this power used against you? And lockdown, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, but this is my channel, so my opinion is the one you're going to get, is insanely unfun to deal with. It's one thing if occasionally you get a unit locked down here and there. Like, you know, that's fine. I can deal with that. But look at that, right here. They have locked down almost my entire fleet. When you're dealing with that kind of thing, where there's just ghosts everywhere being controlled by the computer with its literally inhuman reflexes, locking down almost an entire full battlecruiser control group, that is not fun. That is not enjoyable. It's like when you lose the ability to use your units, that's just straight up not fun. I really, really hate the Dark Archon's mind control ability for the same reason. The Arbiter's stasis ability is actually not as bad because at least stasis units are invulnerable while they're in stasis. I hate these abilities. I think they were a bad idea. I think they shouldn't be in the game because they're incredibly unfun, as this mission demonstrated. Probably not a popular opinion. Probably most people think they're fine or even love these abilities. But for me, this mission taught me to hate them, the lockdown especially. Now's the main thing that made this mission not fun for me. So by this point, I have gotten tired of having my battle cruisers locked down and obliterated, so I just built a ridiculously huge infantry army. This, as you can see, managed to blow up at least some stuff, but it wasn't super effective either, because the computer has a bunch of siege tanks parked up on the walls of that huge Protoss city or whatever it is that the Terran base was built in. And it likes to go freaking bananas with its science vessel's irradiate ability. And between the siege tanks raining death from the walls and the irradiate, it just chewed through ungodly amounts of infantry. So the infantry assault, it blew up some stuff, but it got wiped out too. So now I'm building a giant mixed army of infantry, Goliaths, battle cruisers, wraiths, just some of everything. Another thing the science vessels loved to do that I didn't mention yet is constantly EMP my battle cruisers, so they never had the Yamato gun available. Whereas its cruisers would just, again, with superhuman reflexes, use their Yamato guns left, right, and center. So here's yet another attack I'm launching. You see the battle cruisers getting locked down, the infantry getting obliterated by siege tanks, the usual. It's just a complete meat grinder slog. Yet another thing about this mission that I ended up not liking. As far as I can tell, Red just has infinite resources. Like, if he ever even had resources he was harvesting, I never saw them. I never saw, like, any minerals within his giant sprawling base. I didn't see any refineries or Vespine geysers, I don't think. But he never, ever stopped building stuff. So like I said, I guess he just had infinite resources, which means that while I probably should have run him out of resources by now and won the War of Attrition, the mission was just designed so that that's not even possible. Which, considering how incredibly hard it already is, just feels unnecessary. So yeah, kinda wasn't fun. I'm sorry to say. It started out fine. Fighting the Protoss was fine, setting up my base was fine, even taking out Brown was fine, but once I got to where I was attacking Red's base, it kind of sucked. That said, I do plan to do the remaining missions in this little mini-campaign, because hey, the first two were fun. It was only this one that kind of sucked, so maybe Mission 2B and the other variant of this mission will be better. Also, I just kind of feel yucky not finishing it. And I want the bragging rights of having finished the Enslavers campaign at this point. Well, anyway, I think I'm just about done with the post-commentary part. We're done. Not even a cutscene. Not even a cutscene. Just, you are victorious. Not even a single line of dialogue for that. That was awful.